Oh my goodness, everyone. Welcome back to the Pelvic Pulse podcast. I'm just going to go right into this amazing human's bio, this amazing woman. Okay, here we go, because I'm kind of fangirling over here. Dr. Brianne Grogan, or Dr. Bree, is a doctor of physical therapy specializing in pelvic health. An Oregon native, Bree and her family took a 12-year detour to Germany, where she nurtured and grew her popular YouTube channel, which now has over 470,000 subscribers. Today, Bree is back in the United States and enjoys living, working, and playing in Bend, Oregon. She is passionate about the mental and emotional aspects of pelvic health, and her mission is to change the conversation around pelvic wellness to a new paradigm that includes thoughts, emotions, energy, mindset, spirit, and soul, along with body-based approaches to care. Thank you for coming to the show, Dr. Bree. My
Thank you
gosh.
so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I can't even tell you. We were talking about this off recording. I've been sending the 3-minute miracle for pelvic tightness and prolapse to almost all of my pelvic clients for the most part. Um, I found it first somehow. I don't remember. I think I probably searched it in YouTube and stumbled on your page. And that particular video for myself has been helpful in multiple stages of my pelvic health journey personally. And so I'm just so grateful for what it is that you do and share. And I'm just, yeah, so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It thrills me when I know that people are actually using the content that I put so much love and heart into on YouTube.
I
I have
know.
a lot out there and it's really nice, especially when some of those older videos keep resurfacing, because I know that one has been really helpful for me too. That
Mm.
simple pose it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you haven't checked it out, anyone,
Yeah.
please do. It's 3-minute miracle. It takes about 10 minutes because at least for me.
As I talk,
No,
it's
I
actually
love it. Well, it's like once you know the protocol, then
yeah,
it's like 3 minutes. It
right,
really doesn't take that long.
right.
And it's so effective for pelvic
Yeah.
tightness. I used it actually too when I had a UTI and I was feeling that just urge incontinence feeling come up again of not being able to hold my bladder. And it helped wipe that out,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it really helpful for that exact what you just said. And also, I get knots of tension in my pelvic floor that come on when I'm stressed and really worsen my feelings of heaviness in my pelvic area. And so I use it in that situation when I'm having that. And also, so many of my folks with prolapse
Mhm.
really like the way it feels. So, yes, anyone listening, the 3-minute miracle. And I do offer some instructions. So it's about 10 minutes, but you know.
Yes, yes. No, you'll get it down in no time. You have, like, over 700 videos now, I think, right?
Yeah, actually, I think I just checked and it was I think it's 780 at this point, 780 videos.
Okay, so closer to 800. Wow. Okay, I let's just, like, start at the beginning if you're okay with that. I
Yeah.
mean, because also I know you're a mom,
Mm.
and I'm sure that had a huge impact on your journey with going into the pelvic health field of physical therapy. So, would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Starting at the beginning, I went into physical therapy school and I loved the body. I loved learning about the body. I loved movement.
Mhm.
Was never super sporty, particularly at all, but I loved movement. And I ended up going into geriatric physical therapy right out of grad school. But it just honestly, it wasn't the best fit for me. I wasn't very satisfied. And when I became pregnant, it kind of reconfirmed my enthusiasm and excitement for women's health issues and pelvic health. And so when I became pregnant, I started going through the coursework to really specialize in pelvic health physical therapy because I knew it was time for me to look for something new in the field. And after giving birth to my son, so it was 17 years ago, he's 17 now. And after giving birth, I was a super stressed brand new mom and I was just exhausted. I was not thinking straight. And running had always been my thing to deal with my mental health and anxiety and all sorts of mood issues that I had. And so I was a couple weeks postpartum, 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. I can't remember the exact date at this point, but very early postpartum. And I decided to go for a run. And it was not a good idea. I knew
Mhm.
better. It was way too early. And I was pounding the pavement, just working out my stress. And I just felt the immediate shift of prolapse. I felt something shift in my pelvic bowl. And so I came home, I gave myself an examination because I knew how to do that as a physical therapist, training to specialize in pelvic health. And I thought, "Oh dear, like this isn't good."
Mm.
And so that was really the beginning of my journey because I knew what to do. I actually remember being really scared and certainly not happy that this happened, but I had a lot of strength behind me because when I went to my midwife to have it assessed, I basically was blown off. She was like, Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. Like, this is no big deal. It's, I don't see anything." But she examined me lying down, not upright. There was a lot of issues, but I didn't know how to advocate for myself. And I just sort of, I don't know. I just dealt with what she said, but I went home and I said, "I know this is an issue. I feel it. I feel a golf ball in my vagina, is what it feels like. I can see it when I stand up and examine myself and bear down. It's very prominent. And I know what to do," which was so cool. And I think that is why my battle cry now is for women to learn their bodies and to understand their bodies, because although I was scared and I was discouraged and I was upset, but I also had a lot of faith behind me because I knew anatomy, I knew my body, and I knew the tools because I was learning them to help my patients with the exact same problem. And so I had all of this knowledge behind me. And the thing is, I truly believe that anybody out there can learn this knowledge and then they have it. They can be equipped with it and they will not be scared anymore because I did have fear. But pretty quickly, I was like, I've got this. No big deal. Like, I don't care if my provider doesn't see what I see. I see it, I feel it, I'm in my body, and I know what to do. So I did what I knew to do, what I was giving my patients, and I was completely better. Within a few months, my symptoms really resolved. And a lot of that was because of the natural course of postpartum healing anyway, kind of postpartum recovery. A lot changes naturally postpartum for many women because of hormones shifting back to normal and our bodies shifting back to, more pre-pregnancy levels. But I also know that my exercises and the lifestyle strategies I was using were definitely helpful as well. So that very, very long story is all to say, I mean, it kind of encapsulates my passion, and where it started was personal and very personal, actually. But it really informs what I do today, 17 years later, which is still working with people who have pelvic health issues, but really focusing on empowering people to understand their body and this complete trust that anybody out there can learn this information. It's really not, it- it's very learnable, very, very learnable, very doable. And there's so much relief for people out there who don't even know that these issues are a thing or don't know that there's help.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
feel, I mean, for my first episode of this podcast, season one, it was all personal, professional. How did this story come about? And I just love hearing kind of the hero's journey for everyone's entry point into this kind of work and just how passionate you are. I can hear it and it's it's incredible. And you're so right. I feel the exact same that if people just had the knowledge, maybe upfront, maybe in an earlier point in time in their life even, because, I mean, I haven't even had a child, and I've had pelvic floor issues before, in my 20s.
Mhm.
And yeah, it can really just take the fear out of it, right? Because sometimes the fear is just the fact that it's unknown and you don't know what to do, but if given the knowledge or just some of the support,
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it already by providing all this content on YouTube and I'm
Yeah.
sure on other social platforms, and it's got to be so relieving for people to also just realize having these conversations can be enlightening because they're like, "Oh, wait, a golf ball. I have that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can just highlight some of the things that people may not realize are issues.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
are you seeing people in person these days?
Well, most of my work is online.
Okay.
So I have my YouTube channel, which is really my platform for public education and, just raising awareness about pelvic health and pelvic floor issues and things that can happen. So that's part of my work and what keeps me busy and keeps me going. And then I have online programs that are things people can do from the comfort of their own home to help if they have certain issues. So online courses and YouTube makes up the majority of my work, but I am seeing select private clients for more immersive experiences, and that's really exciting for me. It's a such a love of mine to actually see people in person and actually connect on a deeper level, and I'm really passionate also, speaking of passion, about for those who are able and who have the time in their schedules and the ability to slow down with them and to really extend the treatments for this really sensitive and intimate part of our body. And so my work is always extended, lengthier treatments. And I have the ability to do that with my more flexible entrepreneurial schedule. I know it's not possible in all clinics and, medical centers to have longer treatments, but for me, it's a really important part of what I do that they're long treatments where the person can really get to know me and feel really, really safe with me because it's a pretty intense part of the body that we're working with.
Yes, 1,000%. I could see I'm curious what I guess what the journey's been like over the past 17 years and how I'm already probably gonna answer my own question a little bit, but I wanna hear from you for sure. Um, like, maybe tell me if you started in the clinic or not, with, like, the pelvic floor stuff, or if you segued right into just, like, online content and making these programs and then getting into the immersive stuff, because I feel like I was noticing the same thing. I wasn't even for, like, straight up orthopedic stuff, like, not pelvic floor, in the clinic, I was noticing, okay, 30, 45 minutes isn't enough. These people are bringing in and carrying in so many emotions with their injury, with their pain,
Yeah.
like, a lot of fear, and I have so much compassion for that, and I have so much, yeah, empathy,
Mhm.
and that's actually, I think, informed me in my practice these days. I don't spend did you say that you have immersives? How long are they? Like a weekend?
So the experiences I do are 3 days. Well, 2 to 3 days.
And that's gorgeous. Like,
Yeah.
that would absolutely be a dream. I call them, like, descend retreats, and
So good. Yes.
yeah, I've started just with, like, 4 or 5 hours, but we, like, get to know each other and have a meal, and then we, like, select the work that actually feels, like, prevalent and kind of accessible for them in that moment, in that time frame, but I could only imagine the depths of where you get to go in 3 days, 2 days,
Yeah.
because you're right, like, I mean, the pelvic floor, I mean,
It holds a lot. It
yes.
holds a lot. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I just like, pelvic floor is absolutely one aspect of what I consider, like, okay, pussy, everything
Right. Right.
within that, and
Yeah.
so, I wonder if, like, over your 17 years of working in this realm, if you noticed just, like, what did you notice in people's ability to realize that there's so much more to it than just, like, the physicality, and there are all these other pieces of emotion and spirit, and I'm sure
Mm.
you felt that too within your own personal journey, but, yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I did start in the clinic. So I was again, I started my first year was geriatric physical therapy in a skilled nursing facility, and that was very discouraging because it was so focused on productivity and productivity. Like
Yeah.
everything was about how many patients you can treat. And oh, it was just a lot. And, I don't mean to bash the medical system, but there's just a lot of flaws.
You can
And
bash it. It
okay,
has
all right.
absolute flaws. Yep.
has massive flaws. And so then the next couple 3 years were in clinic, an outpatient orthopedic clinic, and I was seeing
Okay.
all types of orthopedic conditions, shoulder pain and hip pain and knee pain and ankle pain, etc. But it very quickly became apparent that I would slide into the pelvic health PT role at that clinic. So then my entire caseload was pelvic floor.
Mm.
And I actually even kind of started a little satellite clinic where I was just totally on my own in this sad windowless room.
Oh my
But
gosh.
only seeing pelvic health people at this other satellite location. And I loved it. But again, there was quite a bit of emphasis on productivity and, efficiency. And we were lucky in our clinic where our evaluation folks got 45, I can't remember now if it was 45 or 60 minutes, but it was long. It was
Mhm,
fairly long for our profession, but
mhm.
then follow-up appointments were 15 to 20 to 30 minutes max. And it was just very churn and burn, it felt like. And again, discouraging. So I was kind of rescued from that in a way by our move across the world. So we moved to Germany for my husband's job, and we were there for 12 years. And when in Germany, I honestly, I just at first was going to be a stay-at-home mom and focus on raising our son and not work. But I got so I just missed the kind of other aspect that I didn't mention of my work. When I was in Oregon, before we moved to Germany, I had started playing with this fitness class that I created called
Mm.
Femme Fusion Fitness. And it was
Love
so
it.
fun. It was so fun. It would mix belly dance, Latin dance,
Yeah.
bar type work just at a wall instead of a ballet bar. We didn't have that, but a bar. We did Pilates style mat work. We did some yoga. And the whole time, the focus was the pelvic floor and
Mm.
activating and releasing and really, really reinforcing that the pelvic floor is the floor of the core. So we're not going to not talk about it. We're going to talk about it and include it in everything we do in this class. So that was a lot of fun in Oregon before we left. And that was still in me when we were in Germany. And I was like, how can I bring Femme Fusion Fitness to Germany? How can I make this happen here? And so I actually began teaching those classes in Germany to my local community. And no, I did not teach it in German. We had a large community of Americans who spoke English.
Okay,
So
okay.
just in case anyone's wondering, unfortunately, I'm not fluent in German.
Oh my gosh.
I so I was really excited and enjoying that so much, and that was one of the first places I put those videos up on YouTube, and I'd had some other videos that I randomly put up on YouTube when we were in Germany, and then
Mm.
I started gaining some traction, and so when I was in Germany was when I really transitioned to the online space by way of just wanting to explore pelvic floor friendly fitness and then YouTube.
Mm.
And then I created the online programs. And to answer kind of the stop me if I'm talking too much, but
You're
yeah,
good.
yeah, I'm good. Okay. So you'd asked kind of about shifts that I've noticed over the years, and particularly bringing in like the mind body and all of that. I mean, internally, I've had massive shifts during that 12-year time period that we were in Germany. We all go through life, right? Life is lifing for all of us. And I've always been interested in spirituality and personal growth and all of that. So that was just kind of a side thing that was for me. And I noticed how much of these things that I was learning in the worlds of spirituality and personal development could apply to pelvic health. And so I
Mm.
just started playing with that a little bit. And as far as my own growth, but then in what I was seeing with people I was working with online or with people that I was seeing in person in my fitness classes. And I went to Spain and did a yoga teacher training, and I went to Thailand and spent a month in a tantric yoga school. So I really dove into it for myself, but was able to bring it to my work as well. But what really was the game changer, I'd say, was the pandemic and noticing that during that time period, um, 2000, 20-ish starting, people that were responding really well to my work that I had done, my strengthening work, my fitness work, my lifestyle work that was very focused on a very gradual, total body, total core strengthening progression. So it was nothing intense, it was gradual, but it was still too much for so many people. I was noticing more and more symptom flares, more and more people saying, "This isn't working for me." More and more people saying, like, "I'm not getting better." And I was like, "What's going on?" And I realized that when I encouraged people to spend more time on the first week of this particular program that was starting to not work so well for people, when I had them spend more time on the relaxation week, the first week where we're just breathing and getting in touch with the body and just relaxing the muscles, all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, I've got this now, no problem. Now all is good and I can slowly move forward." I basically had to tell people spend more time on the relaxation stuff, move forward a lot more gradually, and I started thinking, what's the connection here? What's going on? And I'd already really been making the mind body connection and understanding that when we're scared, when we're stressed, when life is uncertain, when there's anxiety, it impacts the pelvic floor. And so there was a global situation that was causing global anxiety and unrest.
Mm.
And I really know in my soul that for my work, that was a real turning point for noticing that mind body connection and how it relates to pelvic health. And from there, I did a lot more research, self study, but also, looking for evidence. And yes, this is a thing. Absolutely, it's a thing. The
Mhm.
pelvic floor muscles are one of the first and fastest to respond to stress. And our muscles are just always trying to protect us. And so since then, for the last, I guess, 4 to 5 years, really that mind body connection as it relates to pelvic health has been the true focus of my work. I think it's everything as far as what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for highlighting that because what a big case study that could
Yeah.
essentially be,
Yeah.
right? Because yeah, one-on-one anecdotal thing is, okay, yeah, when I'm stressed, I feel that in my pelvic floor 100%. But to know that that was actually occurring all across the globe
Yeah.
makes total sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot to it. And of course, there's lots of confounding, different variables that impacted that time period. People were potentially sitting more or at home more. Maybe their jobs changed from situations where they're walking around to situations where they're in front of a computer, and their posture and the way they're holding their bodies is definitely going to impact their pelvic health as well. But just that piece of stress and uncertainty and generalized threat was so big for so many people that, yeah, I really, really went down that rabbit hole. And it's proven to be very, very helpful for people to make that connection.
Absolutely. And I feel like I mean, I grew up with a dog, but since I've had my dog for the past year, I can't help but relay it back to just an animal body
Yeah.
sometimes too, where, yeah, if we're afraid or if a dog is afraid, what does their body do? What does their tail
Right.
do? What does their pelvic floor do? Oh, it tucks up and under and squeezes really tight so that no one can smell their butt.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
it's like, oh yeah, we do that too. I
Mhm.
find that so um yeah, the relaxation piece
Yeah.
and spending a lot of time more so on I use the principle gain the range, then train the range.
Mhm. Yep. Perfect. That's exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
feel like I don't know if you've noticed this too, even in like patients or clients that are super early postpartum. I wonder if you experience this yourself too. um, that feeling of just like tightness and that over gripping of what you're kind of talking about with the uncertainty and the stress of everything. It's like, yeah, your muscles are just trying to protect you. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive to be like, oh, I have a prolapse, everything must be weak. I should be strengthening this. And it's like, hang on,
Mhm.
are you feeling your full range of motion? Is there space for you to relax here for a moment?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's fear because yeah, we feel like things are falling out of our bodies. And so, of course, we're going to, even if it's totally unconscious or subconscious, we're going to be tightening up. But tight is not strong. Tight is exhausted and doesn't
Ugh.
work well. So, yeah, it's like, honey, we need to rest and we need to release before we can strengthen. It's so, so important. And It can be hard to do that. I know immediately postpartum, I couldn't feel anything though. That was my experience.
Mm.
Immediately postpartum, it was just numb. And then, I think that was part of it is just sort of like I couldn't get anything to move. I couldn't feel anything. That's how my body experienced postpartum time
Wow.
period. And then again, without thinking I knew better, but I went for that run and just that shift occurred. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah, the prolapse. I like to call
Right.
it a shift, not prolapse. I find that the word
Yeah.
prolapse is scary. So I
Yeah.
call
I
it a
mean,
shift.
feel free to talk more on that because I think that's language is so important. And I
Oh,
feel like too with especially with pelvic floor stuff and with diagnoses like that, people can kind of they latch onto it. And I get that it's a helpful thing sometimes.
mhm.
Maybe most of the time. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Sometimes just to be able to identify the sensation and,
yeah,
the um yeah, the qualities of what you're experiencing. But then sometimes we think we're slapped with that diagnosis for life, and
yeah.
that's not true.
Right. I think when we start to identify with it, that's when there can be problems and it becomes part of our identity. And oh, I am a person with prolapse. Well, I mean, your body experienced a shift, your body has changed, but there's a lot we can do to help. And it's not who you are. Like you're so much more than your pelvic floor issue. You're so much more. You are not prolapse. You are not bladder leakage, whatever it may be. But it
Mhm.
can be. I understand to validate a person going through right now. It does feel like a very big thing. It can take over your entire mind, your entire life for a time period. Like there's a piece of paper stuck in front of your face and you
Mm.
can't see anything else. And so
Mhm.
part of my job to work with people is to move that paper a little bit farther forward, a little bit farther
Mm.
forward so they can see that there's so much more that their body can do, so much more to this world. And that in itself can release some of the gripping, release some of the tension in our bodies and allow us to feel better.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I'd love to hear more about your approach in the immersives or in your one-on-ones because I'm sure like the programs are phenomenal, yes, but I have no doubt that being in person with you is just yeah,
No, thank you.
magic.
Yeah, well, they're different for everybody.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the client. And I actually just literally within the last week finished up with a really special training program that's going to bring so
Mm.
much more richness and depth to the work that I do in person. It was a 6-day immersive training program where we gave and received to one another all of the practitioners that were learning. I was one of them. And we gave and received care to the whole body in such a slow, unwinding process. Like we just spent so much time head to vulva to cervix, really, really slowly allowing the tissues to unwind in safety and softness. And it was incredible. So I'm very excited to bring more of that into the work that I do.
Yeah.
I already was definitely approaching my patients with care and with slowness and with respect and honor, but this is next level. So it's
Really?
gonna
Oh my
yeah, so
gosh.
it's gonna shift things even more, which I'm very excited about. But in my the way I work with people has always been extremely holistic. I absolutely believe that exercise is important. Movement is important. It's not just about body work. It's not just about exercise. It's not just about manual therapy. It's not just about meditation. It's not just about, functional movement. It's about all of it. It's also
Mhm.
about food and nourishment and, eating well together. And yeah, so for my experiences with people, I like to make it about them and work on uh, their body, however it needs to be work with their particular questions and helping them with real life solutions to real life issues they're having with their pelvic floor. And then there's always some kind of emotional stuff that comes up. I mean, let's face it, there's always something. And so I'm going to work with that through my embodiment coaching that I do and really
Mm.
helping people feel and lean into their feelings and use different practices to work with those emotions so they're not just stuck inside of us, not looked at. We need to learn how to see those things and really approve of everything. Like everything is welcome here. All of me is welcome. And how can we work with these things that we're seeing that we may want to, you know, shift a little bit and maybe change a little bit. Although I think that's a risky thing because I don't want to, again, all parts are welcome. There's no part that's bad, but some things
Right.
we can work with to make them a little bit more healthy in our systems or to
Mm,
transmute them a little bit so they're no longer weighing us down and holding us back.
right. Right. I think that's something I was talking to some of my clients. I have a program online where I'm teaching basically guided pussy work
Nice.
um, from their homes,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's like there's nothing to fix.
No, nothing to fix.
Like
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing that's inherently wrong, right? Like think I have this I don't know, philosophy belief, I guess, that like the symptoms that are showing up in the body are just signposts and messages. And if we can create the space, which it sounds like the experiences with you would be about that, just like opening yourself up to being able to acknowledge it, express whatever needs to be expressed. And just from an energetic or emotional
Mhm.
perspective, that ends up shifting the tissues.
Yep. Yep.
And the other way around, I guess, like kind of thinking about it, I'm um, thinking like top down or bottom up
Mhm.
approach or body up, I guess. I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
know. But yeah, that body up approach and just
Yeah.
even approaching the tissues in a way that's really respectful of the nervous system and obviously fully consensual and online, not dissociated. And
Mhm.
yeah, I
You
feel
need
that.
you need all of those in place. You need that nourishment, that descent, you need that like you have the program descent, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we need that nourishment to be online. We need the safety to be online. We need to be able to feel like we belong with ourselves, not, to mention with the provider that we're working with or the people that are around us. And also, we need to be able to at least take a look at some of the feelings that are hiding out inside
Yeah.
before any of this education and training that we're giving our patients is going to stick. I
Mm.
truly believe that we need to have that rooted approach. It's not all about rising up and learning things and exercising and getting strong. It's about rooting down first. We have to have that balance of the rooting down to rise up. And yeah,
Yeah,
and,
otherwise, I feel like you're just I imagine with plants, 'cause I have a lot of plants around me right now, but
yeah,
just like without roots,
right,
you can only get so tall
right.
as a plant, as something that grows.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I love
exactly.
that. I
Yeah.
love that approach, that mentality.
And it takes time and it takes somebody who is interested in spending that time because it's not a Band-Aid solution, but it's one
No.
that's gonna last for life, and it's gonna carry over and spill over into all areas of life and really help the person, as I was saying at the very beginning of our conversation, feel empowered to take this embodiment, this embodied knowledge of themselves to other aspects of life when they're having an issue with their partner or with their kids or another type of health issue. They trust themselves so much more when they do this root work stuff.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have any, like are there any specific people you're drawing in or that are finding you and wanting to do this work, and, like, what is it that they're experiencing?
Yeah. I would say that I'm not advertising this work that I do
Mm,
publicly at this point because
fair.
I have a new we're building a new home and a small little treatment studio. So that won't be ready until about a year from now. So it's a
Oh,
very long process. Oh my gosh. So I
I'm
don't have
sure.
a dedicated space for this work yet. The people who've come to me so far, it's been very magical how they've come to me and I don't even know how it's come to me and we've made it work with the situation I have right now. We've made it work and it's been wonderful. But the people who have been drawn to me are all so different. So I wish I don't know. The thing that they have in common is that they're open-minded
Mm,
and they're ready for this deep work. They're ready. Like they want to spend the time. They know the value of spending this time on themselves and their health, and they see how it's going to help all aspects of their life. So they're really, really ready. And I just appreciate that so much.
Yeah, that's kind of like a prerequisite for
Yeah,
sure, I
yeah,
think, to be
yeah.
able to do pussy work or root work, whatever you want to call it, the full body, wholehearted body, mind, soul work.
Well, and they're brave, I was just gonna say, because I think a lot of people, like you're saying, this pussy work, this root work, this womb work is not something that we are exactly it's a lot of us are very ashamed about this. A lot of us are scared to talk about it. We certainly weren't given this education growing up. It's edgy for a lot of people. And so for the folks who are coming to either one of us, they're brave. And I just want to see people for that because it's different than what most people think is okay or even know is a thing or even could conceive of, you know?
Right.
So it's leading edge.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And I had to remember that sometimes. And I know like one of the biggest reasons I have this podcast is to talk about these taboo quote
Yeah.
unquote topics,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. I was that person
Mhm.
20 not 20 years ago. Well, yes, but also like
Mhm.
10 years ago
Yeah.
where I was like, "Wait, what? I have a
Yeah.
pussy?"
Yes.
Um, and yeah, just we've all been conditioned to
Mhm.
believe something about our root, our bodies, our emotions,
Yeah.
there's so many layers, I think, with that. You're right. Um, and so yeah, it does take a brave person to
It
say yes
does.
to it and say yes to
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. And I think that this might be, I don't know about like statistics on this, but I'm in my mid 40s and I feel like women who are in their 30s, 20s, I feel like the younger generation is starting to embrace this more and more, which is awesome. So
Mm-hmm.
awesome to see. And I think all ages can and do embrace this, but I'm just seeing it in the training that I just was a part of. I was one of the oldest people there, and it was
Nice.
so beautiful to see these younger women moving into this space of being ready to work with everything,
Yeah.
everything, and to
Yeah.
help women feel safe in their bodies and to lean into the emotions that are inside and all of this. It's such beautiful, beautiful work, sacred work.
Absolutely. 100% sacred. Such a privilege, I think,
Yeah, for sure.
to be able to access and have access with women in this way
Yeah.
and yeah, help them feel just better.
Yeah.
But I feel like mothers are, I said this in the last podcast I recorded. But yeah, mothers are the cornerstone. Women, like obviously we can't do shit without women.
Yeah. True.
Like we are so we wouldn't exist. Like humans wouldn't exist without women's bodies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. That could be a whole other tangent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's so brilliant that there are all kinds of ages in
Mhm.
those kinds of programs. That's really,
Mhm.
really rad and so important to have the whole spectrum of
Yeah.
ages, I think. Because we all
Yeah.
come with different perspectives, even with like feminism, I'm thinking about like the second wave, third wave, like whatever wave we might be on right now.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like we've
Mhm.
all been through a lot. Our bodies have all been through a lot.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and they need to be I feel like I've never met a woman who isn't on some level somewhat exhausted, somewhat,
Hmm.
just needing some deep rest and nourishment in her own body, and that's what I want to offer anybody who comes my way. I just think it's so needed right now.
It is. It is. So grateful for your work and what you're putting out there just for the masses and then for these select individuals that you
Yeah.
can like serve so deeply.
That's actually funny you say that because right now I'm like, gosh, I've really gone wide with the information I share and the content I create. I've really gone wide with it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go deep now. And I still love that I have everything I've created, those 700 and, 780 videos. Like they're still out there. They'll always be out there, and I'm sure I'll create more, but the depth is really what I'm craving for my work. That's kind of the next evolution of Brie, I guess. And
Mm,
I'm just so happy to be able to serve in different capacities because not everybody's ready to go deep. And I'm so glad that there is information out there from me, from so many other amazing people in the pelvic health space that are helping people. It's wonderful
mhm.
and
Mm.
so excited to go deep. Let's do this.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
let's do this. Okay, well, if people want to reach you and go deep with you, Dr. Bree, how would
Yeah.
you want them to approach that?
Oh, thank you for asking. My website, briannegrogan.com, is, I guess, the going deep.
Cool.
And my other website, vibrantpelvichealth.com, is the more wide. So I'm Vibrant Pelvic Health on all of the social things, well, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. But there's kind of this secret other one, and that would be the briannegrogan.com. And
Mm,
so, yeah, if someone's feeling like, I like the wide, then stick with everything Vibrant Pelvic Health. And if you like the deep, go to briannegrogan.com.
ooh, I love that description that you just gave. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll put all those links in the show notes for everyone and just make sure everyone can, yeah, reach you in the ways that they want to. But
Thank you so much. Yeah.
thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope this was helpful and gives you a little inspiration on how to approach your body and give yourself some love and a big exhale.
Yes. Everyone take a big exhale right now, right?
Yeah,
Down on
in
your
through the nose.
belly. Yes. Ooh, that feels good.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you again.
everyone. Of course.
Bye.